All right, let's wrap up with the external portion of the female reproductive system. The external genitalia consist of the vulva or the pudendum. The vulva consists of the labia minora and majora. The minora is the smaller labia, which is covered with the smooth, hairless skin. There is a bit of mucus glands in there as well. The vestibule is a central space between the labia minora and the majora. So let's go back a slide. Oops, sorry. Oh, shoot, there we go. Here we go. So we have over here the labia minora, all right? And of course, I did not get my pen up and running before I started. Here we go. Get my pen going. So the labia minora, which are these two inner lips. The labia majora are the larger lips on the outside. The minora has no hair associated with it. It's associated with the urethral opening. The glans clitoris is at the more anterior portion, and then the prepuce of the clitoris is up high, more anterior to that as well. And then we have, like I said, the labia majora on the outer edge here. The vestibule is the region between the two labia, and then you have the vaginal entrance here. So if we go back one slide, that's forward. The vagina and the urethral opening the vagina and the urethra open both into the vestibule, and then you have the periurethral glands that discharged into the urethra near the external opening, and these glands produce compounds that help protect the tissues in the area. And then the clitoris itself, the glans is at the very distal end. The prepuce covers the body of the clitoris. The prepuce is like that hood of skin. It projects into the vestibule and is anterior to the urethra, so it's more anterior to the body. It contains a small amount of erectile tissue, which is homologous, which means, similar to, homo for same, logos for basically comparing it to another thing. But it's homologous to the corpora cavernosa, so it is a tissue that becomes engorged with blood during sexual arousal. And so if you look at the vagina and the vestibule, here's the vaginal opening right here. The vestibule is that outer opening into the vaginal canal, and right at the more internal portion of the vestibule is where the hymen is located, which is a closure in younger females. At some point in time during their lifetime, the hymen does either dissolve or break, allowing smooth entry into the vaginal canal. There are specific muscles that help control or kind of help maintain the structure of the vaginal canal. These would be levitator muscles. And then the vaginal canal leads up to the fornix. These regions here are the fornix and the cervix of the uterus. So basically the vulva itself, the outer portion of the vulva, is established by the mons pubis and the labia majora. And the mons pubis is a little bit of adipose tissue underneath the skin, and it's anterior to the pubic symphysis, so it's a little bit of cushioning there. It's usually covered by coarse pubic hair, and so that is, let's go back one slide, that would be this region right here. And then the labia majora, which are the large kind of the large lips of the vulva. It's actually homologous with the scrotum of males. And so the entire reproductive system early on starts out very similar between males and females. It's just that the gonads develop differently, and obviously the males don't have a uterus, but some of these portions of the body get recycled for different purposes. So the labia majora are similar or homologous to the scrotum of males developmentally. It encircles the labia majora, encircles the labia minora, and is basically the outer margin of the female reproductive system. There are a series of sebaceous glands in the labia majora and some apocrine sweat glands, okay? that secrete onto the labia majora, and these sweat glands and secretions help control the local flora in the environment. Now we're going to move more upwards, more superior in the body, and talk briefly about mammary glands. These are specialized organs of the female reproductive system that produce milk or sustenance for infants. Males have these as well. It's just they are not hypertrophied. They don't grow as a consequence of exposure to estrogen and progesterone through puberty. It is a subcutaneous tissue, and it does have a pectoral fat pad deep into the skin so that the mammary glands are protected somewhat and cushioned. There are ducts underlying the mammary glands that open onto the body surface at the nipple, and the nipple itself is surrounded by a darker pigmented skin called the areola, and the areola itself also has sebaceous glands that are often seen as little white bumps along the circular areola. This tissue, the mammary gland, consists of separate lobes. Each one can produce milk. Each lobe is separated into secretory lobules, and the lobules contain with it alveoli, so they're little clusters of glands that are milk-producing cells, and then the milk is funneled into collecting tubes that move into the lactiferous ducts, which then move out into the nipples. And so the size of the breast in individuals reflect the amount of adipose tissue present, not necessarily the size of the lobules. So the secretory apparatus itself doesn't become very well developed and doesn't appear complete until pregnancy occurs. After pregnancy, however, it is maintained. So this is a cross-section through a mammary gland. And so you'll see here the individual lobes and lobules of the mammary glands. This is where milk is produced. The milk then enters the lactiferous duct, and the lactiferous duct then drains into the nipple. We also have the lactiferous sinuses, where a little bit of milk can be stored for a short period of time. The yellow is the pectoral fat pad, which you see right here. The pectoralis major muscle. I'm reading too fast here. The pectoralis major muscle is what connects to these suspensory ligaments. These suspensory ligaments help hold the fat and the lobes of the mammary glands onto the pectoralis major muscles right here. So if you look here through a mammogram, what they're looking at is the structure of the mammary tissue. When you're looking, say, for example, in a woman who, in this particular case, probably isn't lactating because the lobes are not larger. You can see the suspensory ligaments. You can actually see the fat pads. If this individual had breast cancer, you would see the development of very dark shadows inside of the tissue, which would then trigger the radiologist to tell the doctor to take a look at the individual in more detail. In a resting mammary gland, you'll see that the luciferous ducts are present, but, there's nothing in there. There's lots of connective tissue, and the ducts themselves of the gland are very small. In an active mammary gland, the lactiferous ducts are much wider. They usually have a little bit of milk in them. In fact, that's what you're looking at here. These gray regions are they're pinkish, purplish. That's actually milk in the lactiferous gland. And then the secretory alveoli grow tremendously to start producing or secreting milk into the lactiferous ducts. So lactation is controlled by a hormone called prolactin. Pro for stimulate, and then lactin for lactation. And this stimulates milk production. Prolactin is made in the adenohypophysis or adenohypophysis. Human placental lactogen is made from the placenta, and so the HPL is initiating or telling the body, hey, we're getting ready to have a baby, so it will help support the production of milk. Oxytocin is released by the neurohypophysis of the pituitary, and it's going to stimulate the release of milk by suckling of the breast by the infant. And so what happens is milk ejection, smooth muscle contraction, starts pushing the milk out of the lactiferous ducts. In addition, during birth and delivery of the baby, oxytocin produces uterine contractions, or contractions of the smooth muscle in the uterus, to cause the baby to be born, right? So the best stimulation for uterine contractions actually is nursing babies. And so one of the ideas is that if you already have a baby and you're already nursing, but you're pregnant again, if you want to get the next baby moving along, get your baby nursing. All right, that's it for the female reproductive system.